I'm Geri. Before I get into channeling, I actually was in project management for majority of my career, and I started this journey in 2018, and it just started off with just my way of giving to my friends and my family for the holidays, Christmas. I really got into the craft as a way of like finding a creative outlet between my regular 9 to 5 at the time. It wasn't until the pandemic when I truly, when the business actually truly take off, and I was like, okay, well, now or never, I can either keep going and kind of hating where I was at, or I can finally take on this dream full time. And truly inspired by my dad. What I've always shared is my dad is my big inspiration. He was really the first person who taught me using self-care in a form of candles. Like a lot of immigrant families that come here, my parents, specifically my dad, worked midnight shifts. And so he would come home and he would light a candle, watch TV, and eat leftovers. And that was his happy place. And when he was growing up, he said candles comforted him because they reminded him of his mamang. And when they came here to Philippines, they actually immigrated here in Parkdale. They would smell like a burning candle and nothing would be lit. And that was their way of, I guess, associating that with the spirit of my great grandmother. So that's kind of how the story started, and why I started doing this was really my dad. And every year, since I was able to make my own money, he would always ask me to just give him a candle. Something so simple, such a simple act of giving that object to him would really make his day. And it's literally only type of self-care he does, because he's such a hard worker. And yeah, he likes to put his feet up on the table, watch his teleserias, and light them up. For me, especially, community means home to me. My fellow artists, my fellow Filipinx artists, makers and stuff, I learned from that. And when we uplift one another, we grow, it's not just one person getting success, we all get that success. So why it's so important to me specifically is because, my community is the very first people that supported me before I even started anything. And it's also important for us as business owners to acknowledge that and also keep that community alive and going, and for other people to uplift other future makers as well. For example, one thing I've noticed with the candles, especially when I started doing more Filipino traditional desserts, right? I gotten a lot of messages from people that have bought them that said that this reminds them of home. It reminds them of their family. And that means so much to me. It really does. It touches me. And that's kind of why when I get messages like that and I see them burning for their loved ones, or a picture with their, father or mother with the candle beside it, it reminds me of why I'm doing this in the first place, because that's how my story started off. So yeah, that's why it's so important to always acknowledge your community, because it's your home. My first initial, intro to the community was through my former mentor, Joe Danan, who was a creative force here in Toronto. And he introduced me to a lot of amazing Filipinx artists here that I was so inspired by. I did backup singing for Han Han, actually, who is a Filipina rapstress, and I learned so much from her. She's also a nurse, and seeing her be able to do and balance it all, and learning from her, and just letting go of that insecurity, and really welcoming in that creativity, really inspired me to really put these candles out. It's two different type of mediums, but she inspired me so much with regards to connecting with your community. Here we're all from Philippines. That's where we originate from, a lot of us. And our stories, even though it's different, it's still very similar at the same time. We all come here with a hope and a dream, and with all our ancestral stories from within our families, and we take it with us into like the next. And I feel like it's so important, especially within the community, to keep that going. That's why, like, when you see a fellow kapwa, or like, in your family, they're not really your cousins, but you just call them like tito and tita anyway. Because we're just always, you're like neighbors, and they're related to you somehow. When we start a business, we get so caught up in the product development. We get so caught up on like, oh my God, what's it gonna look like? What's the avenue I'm gonna put this in? Really have that honest conversation with yourself about, can you see yourself doing this for 5, 6, 10 years? Because starting a business, a lot of people don't factor in how much of their life they're giving into this. Having a real hard conversation with yourself first and being honest is super important. I know a lot of business owners that we get caught up with like the now, what's next, and like we don't factor in like, oh my God, am I gonna like doing this in 10 years? Plan ahead of time, and also be flexible for the changes and like the problems you're gonna have to solve. Be kind to yourself and know that not everything's gonna go as planned, and be okay with that. It means a lot. It means to me representation. Representation matters. It truly does. Like seeing people that, are doing what you love, or doing what they love within your communities. People that are within your community is so important, because it's like, again, going back to my mentor, Jody, he was the very first, him and Helena, really. They both really opened my eyes to what's like possible, when you put yourself out there, when you put a lot of thought and yourself and your culture in the forefront of what you love, that was so important to me to see that, when you have someone that is doing, has a business, it's like, wow, I can do that too. Someone that looks like me, someone that, I admire and learn from. If they can do this, it makes anything possible. And it truly is, to me, like shattering the ceiling when you have that representation. It just, yeah. Community over competition is so big. It's so important, because there's a lot of kindness, not only for yourself, for your kapwa, that can really go a long way. Really, the only competition you have is yourself. You're the only obstacle of your success. I mean, obviously there's other factors and stuff, but I truly believe like your journey is your journey, and how you started, how you start, how you end it, whatever, like that's exclusive to you. And really remember that, like, don't compare yourself to others, because there's no one like you. One of the things that like I want to share with, I guess, advice that I wish was told to me was, or often, is don't compare yourself to other businesses. Like your journey is exclusive to you. And every, there is no like point A to B, C type, like 101 starting businesses, like it truly is unique to you. And always remember that.